Hey everybody, Jeremy here from Gnomebot Studios. I am back again with another video. For today's topic, I will be doing a summary of 2024 and covering what will be happening in 2025 for Gnomebot Studios. Now, it's been some time since I've done one of these videos. Of course, we had the holidays, and I've been kind of in this in-between spot with making videos. I feel like I've almost reached the saturation point with Grit Fantasy RPG stuff, and just trying to find a footing here with what I'm going to be doing this next year. So I thought it'd be just a great idea to just look back on 2024 and talk about some things that I'm got in the works and some things maybe I'm looking forward to working on. So the big one in 2024 was, of course, Grit Fantasy RPG. And that was like, the first 6 months of 2024 was just exclusively working on Grit Fantasy RPG, doing the writing, working through the editing stuff, and then just like full-on illustration work. So I was doing a lot of close work with Ryan, back and forth with the editing. It underwent a couple major revisions that took a lot of work to go through. And, of course, I was at the same time playtesting the game still, or just playing it. I had most of the things worked out, into February or March or whatever. I was in a good spot. But it was still, I felt like something that I had to keep playing. There were unique items and some artifacts and stuff I wanted to test out. And there were some minor tweaks on some lineages that I did sort of last minute. Nothing major, though. And then I got into, in April, there's a convention called Nerdfest, which Ryan and his wife set up and run, which is like this super cool convention in Michigan. Very cozy. And they let me show up and run some games there. So I ran 4 games of Grit in person, and that was like the first time I ever played Grit in person, if you can believe it. This game was mostly developed on virtual tabletop online. So it was really an interesting thing. I put together what I call a Grit kit. So I took a bunch of cardboard and made a bunch of scatter terrain and make some tokens for that, and I went to this convention and ran the game. And what I thought was just going to be some regular games of Grit ended up being some playtesting. And after that, I made a major revision. I had skills for many years in the game, and I axed them. Like, this is no longer needed. Boom, gone. So that caused another revision. And at the same time, I redid for like the 5th or 6th time all the artifacts. And that was like a major amount of work. But I streamlined everything. I made things easier to understand. And it came out better for it. So the Nerdfest thing was a success. A lot of good people there. It was fun to do. And then I just worked through like up to June. I worked through just the final version of Grit Fantasy RPG, and I submitted the game. And when I submitted it, it was emotional. It was an emotional thing, that was hardcore for like a year and a half, 2 years. Just working on this thing, and finally I pressed that button and it went into the system, and proofs were ordered and all that stuff, and it took quite a few weeks to get that all sorted out and get proofs to me. And Ryan came over the day that they arrived, and he took me out to dinner, and we opened up this box of books, and there we had it. It was Grit Fantasy RPG in book form, which was really kind of surreal. It didn't feel like possible that this could happen, that I would make this thing and it would be a solid book in my hand that I actually put together with help of Ryan, and pretty interesting experience. And I still, to this day now, occasionally I've got that on my shelf. I'll pull it out and be like, yeah, I actually made this. Kind of crazy. So that was, opened up on Drive-Thru RPG. It was so nice just to get it to that state and available to the world, and know that it was kind of gonna get out to people to play it, because that's the point, to have people have fun with it. And yeah, so it was a major accomplishment that took many years to get to. So in the time between the submission and the proofs arriving, I worked on digital and punch out tokens for the set. So I colorized all the illustrations for the monsters and characters in the book, and made tokens out of them, and punch out ones that I kind of took the idea from my grit kit for the tokens, like just flat circular discs basically, and made these punch out tokens that you could make these tokens for your own in-person games. So put those out. I had the YouTube channel already set up like maybe a year ahead of time, but I didn't have any videos out for it. But I was getting ready to kind of like open that up too, because I knew I needed to start, putting some informational videos out there. So, but anyway, another kind of major life event, and one that related directly to my gaming life, was that not more than a handful of days after I released Grit Fantasy RPG, my dear friend Mark Dawson passed away, which was just utterly heartbreaking. And I've been hesitant to talk about this, especially putting it out there in the world, but I feel that I'm ready to kind of, let this be known. But we met in the early 90s, and not long after we met, we were gaming together. So we played all kinds of systems over the years, and it was not consistent always. We had life changes and stuff, and but we'd always kept up with each other and do some gaming. And we played D&D, Palladium systems, just quite a few things we actually looked at or talked about, but maybe never ever played. But we also did kind of hash out some design stuff together, which never really materialized into an actual game, but I think it kind of set the stage for Grit, at least part of that. And so he was there on the very first day that Grit was being tested. Like, he was one of the original Grit Fantasy RPG testers, and he just supported it all the way through. He was a little less active with it in the last 2 or 3 years of it, but he did play 1 or 2 games. So, but he was definitely part of it. His name's in the book, and so he also took part in quite a lot of ICRPG games. We played a lot of that. I ran a Warp Shell game called The Necromancer that I ran for 3 years, and he was the only one who had played 20 sessions with one character. I also ran an Elfheim game for a year that he was involved in, and we did some Vigilante City too. So yeah, we spent a lot of time online because he had moved to New Mexico, and so everything was VTT that we gamed through. And so to me, I mean, not only is it a tremendous loss, knowing somebody over 30 years, but personally, but like also he's my gaming buddy, right? So, and it was his choice, which makes it even harder to process, So I think I'll be processing this for a long time. Maybe forever, probably forever. But I did want to mention that one of the main reasons for my push to start developing Great Galaxies was because I want to honor Mark. There's a main character that he played in my ICRPG Warp Shell game, the Necromancer. His name is Zantu, and so Zantu will be featured in Great Galaxies for a lot of the examples in the book. And I will be putting something in the book to honor Mark, but I haven't written that out yet. I'm still kind of processing what I'm going to say there, what that'll look like. But that is something driving me forward for working on Great Galaxies that I have not mentioned to most people. I think only Ryan knows at this point. So yeah, that was a major event for 2024. Super sad, and here we are though. Okay, so moving on to the YouTube kind of stuff. Once I got in the groove of the YouTube production, that's all I was focused on. Aside from testing Great Galaxies and playing Great Fantasy, I was putting these videos together, and I really wanted to put a lot of effort into making informational videos for people. So that's why there's nearly 20 of those out there. I want people to have a place to go to find out about the game and very specific things about the game. And even now I have some ideas that maybe I might add into, but yeah, I wanted to have a welcoming place for people to stop in and find out some specific details if they needed to find out about them, And then along with that, the Discord channel opened up, which has been slowly growing. It's been a really nice thing to have, and good conversation there about the game. I have wanted to run more games through it, but I just with the writing and stuff, I haven't so much. But I do plan to run some games there too, and hopefully see other people running games. That would be great. I also released Great Fantasy RPG on itch.io. It kind of opened up another avenue for the game to get out there, and I'm part of Ko-fi as well. So my digital space has kind of grown for Gnomebot Studios this year. And the last part of the year, 2024, has just been really focused on Great Galaxies. And I have decided to run with another printer. I kind of talked about this in my last project updates video. But so I'm basically reformatting and redoing the graphic design type stuff to make it cleaner, more efficient, and nice looking, and ready for a different kind of printer that will open up more possibilities for Gnomebot Studios books in general. So eventually I'll put out a Great Fantasy RPG version that will go to this new printer so that everything will be in one place, but that is for the future. So 2025, you are going to see me continuing to work on Great Galaxies. It is in the writing stage. I have 110 pages written so far, probably more than that by now. But yeah, right now I'm just transferring over to the new setup, so that means retyping everything. And in the process of doing that, I am editing as I go. And then I will be getting into illustration for that. So I don't know exactly when that will be. It could be in a couple months. But I'm going to, once that opens up, and once the writing part is pretty much solid, I will be full bore illustrating, and hopefully I can knock that out in a few months. Who knows? We'll see. Another thing I have kind of in the works or in my mind to do soon is a third-party license for Grit. So it'll be like a powered by Grit or compatible with Grit kind of thing, where folks can put together adventures and modules and whatever else kind of adjacent stuff that will work with Grit. They could, make that and sell it if they wanted to. But I am just in the process of kind of figuring out what the wording is going to be on all that and what I am expecting out of it, So that's in the works. And as far as what other Grit thing I want to do is I want to make a monster manual. Like, things that I'm looking forward to are more illustration heavy rule or writing light projects. So what I would really love to do is a monster manual, and what I think I'd like to do there is make something that's completely compatible with both Grit Galaxies and Grit Fantasy. So you get the triptych there, you got the Grit Fantasy, Monster Manual, and Grit Galaxies. Boom, you got them all there, and there'd just be so much for you to go through and work with, and you'll be solid. So I will probably start in on that sometimes later in 2025. We'll see. But I do want to work on smaller illustration-focused projects. Like, maybe I put out some settings or something, but they're not going to be these 150-page books. It's going to be possibly just a PDF. But we're talking, 20 pages at the most, 30 pages. I don't know. It'll be minimal. Because I feel like I need to get into some stuff that I can actually manage and finish in a reasonable amount of time. So that's kind of what I'm looking forward to in the future. And that goes beyond 2025 probably. Another thing I want to work on are, some continued YouTube channel stuff. Of course, there's going to be all kinds of stuff for Grit Galaxies that I'm going to put out just to get that information out there. I do want to explore some topics just generally for the hobby. I want to do some in-play videos. And I do want to work on some non-RPG merchandise. So, Gnomebot illustration merchandise. Now, I may be taking some illustrations from the books of Grit Fantasy and Grit Galaxies and dropping them into merchandise, but, I wanted to make t-shirts and, stuff, mugs, I don't know, little pictures, greeting cards, that kind of stuff, I think that would be a good way to expand Gnomebot Studios and maybe help me do this full time, So that's something I'm looking forward to. And then if I look kind of like take a step away and look into some other things that are kind of non-Grit, I am definitely committed to helping Ryan with his system, which is called Limitless. And right now he's writing it. And sounds like he's got an illustrator now, which is awesome. And I'm just going to help him get that out there in the world. Like, it needs to be an actual hardcover, softcover book, which will be exciting. So there'll be some play testing with him and some helping with whatever he needs with the book stuff and advice with rules or whatever. So we'll be working on that. And, I think he's posted that on Discord too. So there are other folks that are, in on that as well, or at least aware of it. And then I have something that I've been working secretly in the shadows, a small narrative based system. Like, we're talking tiny. Like, I want to make it 5 pages, maybe a little more, who knows, but I want to make it super streamlined. Like, not much at all, just mostly narrative and very, very thick with setting and theme and feel. So I've got that in the works that I'm making notes on. I haven't really typed anything out yet. There's no really need to do that at this point, but I am probably going to be doing some playtesting with that. We shall see. I think Ryan has some interest in that too, because it's kind of, I think, adjacent to Limitless. Same kind of feel, or similar at least. So, that's kind of what I'm looking forward to this next year for Gnomebot Studios. I know it sounds like a lot, and I've got a list a mile long of things to do, things that I want to do. So we'll see how it all plays out. But that's just putting it all out there. So, that's about all I had for what I want to do for this wrap up of 2024 and put some things out for 2025. And I'm sure you're going to hear about it on Discord and YouTube here if you're following along. And thanks for listening, by the way. If you don't see me here in the next week or so with another video, you will see me soon. And thanks for listening to this, and take care of yourselves and keep rolling those dice.